Welcome to Easy Anatomy. I'm going to talk to you now about the anatomy of ophthalmic nerve, or the first division of trigeminal. The story of ophthalmic nerve is starting from the middle cranial fossa. If you remember, we have trigeminal ganglion, which divide into three branches. One traveling through foramen ovale, this is the V3, which is mandibular division. The second one through foramen rotundum, this is V2, or maxillary nerve. Okay, then the third one, which is the first division, which we call it ophthalmic nerve. The ophthalmic nerve traveling through cavernous sinus. If you remember, cavernous sinus contain this nerve and this nerve. This is cavernous sinus. Okay, cavernous sinus. Which is the oral venous sinus. Then the ophthalmic nerve divide into three terminal branches, one lateral, one middle, and one is going medially. Okay, the three of them enter the orbit through superior orbital fissure. So here is the superior orbital fissure, and medial to the superior orbital fissure there is optic canal. So this is superior orbital fissure, this is the front, this is a lacrimal branch, this is the frontal branch of ophthalmic, and this is nasociliary branch. Okay, the three of them enter the orbit through superior orbital fissure. The lacrimal continue its trap in the lateral side of the orbit until it reaches to lacrimal gland laterally. Okay, and lacrimal branch of ophthalmic receive communicating branch coming from zygomatic nerve of maxillary, and originally this is the postganglionic fiber of sphenopalatine ganglion, which originally is a preganglionic coming from facial nerve number 7, the cranial nerve number 7. This is parasympathetic secretomotor fibers to induce secretion of lacrimal gland. Okay, so before I leave lacrimal nerve, you need to know that lacrimal nerve originally coming from ophthalmic, and it is responsible for sensation from lacrimal gland in addition to sensation from lateral part of upper eyelid. This is the sensation from lateral part of upper eyelid and from the lacrimal gland. In addition to that, it is the one which is responsible for carrying parasympathetic fibers coming from sphenopalatine ganglion and originally from facial nerve. We're done with the lacrimal branch. How about frontal? The frontal branch continue above levator palpebral superioris muscle, then divide into medial and lateral branches. The lateral branch is supra-orbital. The medial branch is called supratrochlear. Both of them, they supply the skin over the forehead and upper eyelid. So both of them going to supply upper eyelid, forehead, and anterior part of scalp. Upper eyelid, forehead, and anterior part of the scalp up to lambdoid suture. How about the medial branch, which is called the nasociliary? The medial branch is nasociliary, which cross over optic nerve. This is the optic nerve, which is traveling through optic canal. Okay. And as you know, optic nerve is coming from the retina, the inner coat of the eyeball. So this is the eyeball, and here is the optic nerve. Okay. So this is optic canal, optic nerve. Keep in mind that the optic canal also give passage to this artery. What is this artery? Ophthalmic artery. Ophthalmic artery. And the ophthalmic artery sends the central retinal artery, which is penetrating the optic nerve. Okay. Keep in mind that the ophthalmic artery is surrounded by sympathetic fibers, which originally coming from superior cervical ganglion. Superior cervical ganglion. This is postganglionic fibers, so this is sympathetic. Okay. So sympathetic fibers coming from superior cervical ganglion. Okay. And this artery is ophthalmic artery. So the nasociliary nerve is the one which most complicated. Is going to send several branches, long ciliary branch, more than one, penetrating the eyeball, carrying sensation from the cornea, conjunctiva, sclera. So those are long ciliary nerve, long ciliary nerves. But keep in mind that long ciliary nerves, in addition to that, these sympathetic fibers, okay, are going to join those long ciliary nerves. Are going to join long ciliary nerves. What is the function of these sympathetic fibers? The function of these sympathetic fibers, dilators, pupillary muscle, supply dilator pupillary muscle to dilate the pupil. Okay, so this is communicating branch coming from sympathetic joining long ciliary branches. What are other branches? You have two branches here at the medial wall of the orbit. There is two foramina. One is called the posterior ethmoidal foramen, one is called the anterior ethmoidal foramen. Okay, so this is the anterior ethmoidal nerve, anterior ethmoidal, and this is posterior ethmoidal nerve. Both of them supplying ethmoidal and sphenoidal paranasal sinuses. But in addition to that, the anterior ethmoidal ascend to the anterior cranial fossa, then descend again to the nasal cavity, where it continue at internal nasal, inside the nasal cavity, then outside external nasal. So anterior ethmoidal nerve has long course. First penetrate the medial wall of the orbit, ascend to anterior cranial fossa, and from there descend to the nasal cavity, and inside the nasal cavity we call it internal nasal, then leave the nasal cavity as external nasal branch, okay. The external nasal branch supplying skin over the dorsum of the nose, dorsum of nose. Nasociliary itself continue as infratrochlear. So you have supratrochlear, which is one of the two terminal branches of the frontal. You have infratrochlear, which is a continuation of the nasociliary nerve. And the infratrochlear supplies a scan at the medial angle of the eye. A scan, which is the junction between the upper and the lower eyelids. The last branch of nasociliary nerve here is called sensory root for ciliary ganglion. So this is ciliary ganglion, and this is sensory root for ciliary ganglion. Okay, quick review to the branches of ophthalmic nerve. Ophthalmic nerve divided into three branches. The lateral branch is the lacrimal, which continue to the lateral side of the orbit until it reaches to the lacrimal gland. The function of lacrimal nerve is two functions: carry sensation from lacrimal gland, carry sensation from the upper eyelid, lateral part of the upper eyelid. The second function, that it is the one which conveys parasympathetic fibers to lacrimal gland. What is the origin of these parasympathetic fibers? Is coming from facial nerve and stop in sphenopalatine ganglion, and from there continue to the lacrimal nerve. The middle branch is called the frontal, which travel inside the orbit above levator palpebrae superioris muscle, then split into two branches, supraorbital and supratrochlear. Supraorbital exit orbit through supraorbital foramen and supplies the middle part of the upper eyelid and forehead and continue backward to the scalp. Supratrochlear nerve exit the orbit above the trochlea in the medial angle and supply the medial part of upper eyelid. The most medial branch is called the nasociliary nerve. The nasociliary nerve is traveling medially cross over optic nerve. Here is the optic nerve. As you see, the nasociliary nerve coming from lateral to medial above the optic nerve, and continue as infratrochlear nerve, exit the orbit as infratrochlear nerve. The infratrochlear nerve supplies the junction between the upper and the lower eyelids. During its course, nasociliary nerve sends several branches, including sensory root to ciliary ganglion, more than one long ciliary nerves, and the function of long ciliary nerve: sensory, carrying sensation from the eyeball, including cornea, conjunctiva, and sclera. But in addition to that, remember that superior cervical ganglion, which is sympathetic ganglion, its postganglionic fibers are going to travel around the ophthalmic artery, then joining long ciliary branches. The destination of these sympathetic fibers is dilator pupillary muscle, supplying the dilator pupillary muscle responsible for dilation of the pupil. So they are carried by long ciliary branches. The posterior ethmoidal nerve exits the orbit through the posterior ethmoidal foramen in the medial wall of the orbit, supplying sphenoidal ear sinus and ethmoidal ear sinus. Then anterior ethmoidal nerve, which is very long nerve, exits the orbit through the anterior ethmoidal foramen, then ascend to the anterior cranial fossa, then descend back through a slit opening, like a small opening next to the crista galli, descend to the nasal cavity. Inside the nasal cavity, we call it internal nasal, then exit nasal cavity between the cartilage and the bone, between nasal cartilage and bone, to supply the dorsum of the nose, the skin over the dorsum of the nose. So, ophthalmic nerve, the function in general, first, carry sensation from eyeball. Second, sensation from eye, upper eyelid, forehead, and anterior part of the scalp. Third, receives communicating branches from sphenopalatine ganglion and superior cervical ganglion. This is sympathetic to lacrimal gland. From superior cervical ganglion, this is sympathetic fibers to dilator pupillae muscle. Dilator pupillae muscle. Okay, so those are the major function. Before I leave you, keep in mind there is something called corneal reflex. Corneal reflex. If you touch the cornea, what is gonna happen? Touching the cornea, end up blinking, and the blinking happen at the closure of the eye, and it happen in both sides. If you touch right, both right and the left are going to close. So the afferent, here is a cornea, for example. So the afferent is going to be ophthalmic nerve, carrying sensation. This is a touch. Then the efferent is going to be facial nerve. The efferent to close the eye. Which muscles closing the eye? Orbicularis, oculi muscle, right? Plus also for blinking, if you remember, orbicularis oculi had three parts: orbital part, and for the firm closure, and the palpebral part for blinking. So basically facial nerve is the one which supplies this muscle. So the afferent ophthalmic, the efferent is facial nerve. Thank you very much.